My child, my daughter, I need to tell you about a place that exists and that you do not yet know, because inside that place, in a room that was not built by human hands, there is a book that cannot be found in any library on earth, a book that was not written with ordinary ink, was not printed on paper, was not filed on any server in the world, and inside that book, on a page that has existed since before your very first breath, is your name, written with a precision and a care that no human being would ever be capable of reproducing, written by a hand that knows every strand of your hair, every beat of your heart, every tear you shed when you thought you were completely alone, every pain you kept in silence because you did not know who to share it with, every dream you had that has not yet come true, but that is still being kept with a care you cannot imagine. And the most surprising thing of all is not the fact that this book exists, because deep in your heart you already feel that it exists. What is going to surprise you is what is written inside it, what was recorded about you before the world even knew you would exist, and why that changes absolutely everything about the way you see your life from this day forward. But before I reveal everything to you, I need you to understand something very important, which is that the message you are about to receive is not a coincidence. It is not a random video that appeared on your screen by chance, because heaven does not act by chance. And if this video reached you at this exact moment, there is a reason far greater than your eyes can see right now, and that reason becomes clearer with every second you spend here with me. So stay until the very end of this video, because what is coming has the power to change the way you see yourself, the way you see your past, and the way you will walk from here forward. And above all, stay until the end, so that you can feel, truly feel, the presence of the love of God pulsing through every word you are about to receive. Yes, there is a book I need to tell you about, a book that exists in a dimension that physical eyes cannot reach, but that the spirit recognizes the moment it hears about it, a book that is not ordinary, that is not decorative, that was not created to adorn any shelf, but that was created with a purpose that transcends all human logic. And that book I need to show you today because you need to know what is written in it. You need to understand what was recorded about your life with an intention that goes far beyond anything any human being would be capable of planning. This book is not stored in a cold or distant place. It was not forgotten in some dusty corner of the universe. Quite the contrary. It is under the care of a presence that never sleeps, that never gets distracted, that never loses sight of any detail of your journey, a presence that has accompanied you since the very first moment you existed as a thought in the mind of God, long before you existed as a reality in your mother's womb, and that presence did not grow tired, did not give up, did not replace you with someone easier to love. It stayed, it remained, it is here right now while you watch this video, while you breathe, while your heart beats without you having to ask it to keep beating. And what is written in this book is not a list of your mistakes. It is not a record of your failures. It is not a file of every time you weakened or fell, because this book was not written with the logic of condemnation, but with the logic of the most complete love that exists. And in that logic, every page about your life was written with a tenderness that your human mind is still learning to comprehend, and that is exactly why this video reached you today, because perhaps you are in a moment where you need to be reminded of what is written there, of what has never been erased, of what can never be erased by any circumstance in your earthly life. Before we continue, if this video is being helpful to you, take a moment right now to subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and comment down below, "I am Divine Light," because that comment is a declaration of who you truly are, an affirmation of your value before God, and also a way to help this content reach more people who need to hear this message just as much as you do. Now, for you to fully understand what is written in this book and what it means for your life, I need to take you back to a moment that happened in a spiritual dimension, in a time that does not obey the rules of any human clock, but that is just as real as everything you have ever lived here on earth. A moment in which heaven itself moved its resources so that a truth about you would be revealed, and that revelation is beginning now, but it will deepen with every part of this video, so do not go anywhere, because the best is still ahead. It was a time before time, a moment that precedes all of human history, a point in eternity when the universe had not yet been spoken into existence, when the stars had not yet been placed in their positions, when the oceans had not yet learned their boundaries, and it was exactly at that point in that entirety that the human mind can barely imagine, that your name was written for the first time in a book that would never be destroyed, that would never be lost, that would never be revised to remove you from its pages, because the decision to choose you was not made based on what you would do, but based on who God is, and God is love in a depth that has no bottom. But before continuing to reveal what is written about you in this eternal book, I need to share something with you that can profoundly transform your spiritual journey starting today, because perhaps you are feeling a calling to go deeper in your faith, to better understand your purpose, to have a spiritual routine that truly changes your life from the inside out. And if that is your desire, the digital book called Walking with Jesus was created to accompany you on that journey in a very practical and transformative way, because it contains 60 full days of prayer, learning, and real changes in your life, with teachings that will help you live with purpose, to prosper in every area, and to have a spiritual experience so rich and so indescribable that you will look back and not be able to believe who you were before you opened the first page. And this edition is available for a limited time only, so the link is in the first comment below so that you can access it when this video ends. Returning to what heaven recorded about you, it is important to understand that in this book there are no blank pages about your life, because God did not create you halfway, did not plan you incomplete, did not write your story up to a certain point and leave the rest to be filled in by chance. Quite the contrary. Every chapter of your journey was contemplated with an attention that goes beyond any human planning, and that includes the chapters you consider the most difficult, the most painful, the ones you would rather tear from the book if you could, because in those chapters there is also a purpose that is above your current understanding, a purpose that only fully reveals itself when you reach the other side of the pain and look back with the eyes of faith. And it was exactly to help you see those purposes that an angel was sent, not to watch over you in judgment, not to inspect you, not to catalogue your mistakes, but to observe, to understand, to carry back to heaven a report about what you have been carrying, about what you have been facing, about the silent battles you fight without anyone around you noticing. Because heaven is not indifferent to your struggles. Heaven is paying much more attention to your life than you can imagine. And what that angel discovered while observing you was something that completely changed the way that report was written, something that heaven itself received with special attention, and that is what I need to tell you about now. The angel that was sent to walk by your side is not a fantasy character, is not a poetic metaphor created to make this message more beautiful, but is a spiritual reality that exists regardless of whether you believe in it or not, because truth does not depend on our belief to remain true, it simply is. And that spiritual reality has accompanied every step of your journey with a faithfulness that no human being has ever been able to offer you. A faithfulness that does not waver when you make mistakes, that does not diminish when you doubt, that does not disappear when you drift away. Because that angel was not given to you as a reward for your perfection, but as an expression of the grace of a God who loved you before you even knew what love was. And when that angel carried your report back to heaven, what was recorded was not a list of sins or an inventory of shortcomings, because heaven does not operate that way. Heaven does not see you through the lens of accusation. And what was recorded, what was written with the greatest of care, was the following. This son, this daughter, carries a weight that was never meant to be theirs, has pains they did not choose to have, faces battles that seem larger than their strength, but remains standing, keeps trying, keeps seeking a connection with something greater than anything the world can offer. And that, my child, did not go unnoticed. It was seen, it was noticed, it was recorded with the care that only eternal love is capable of having. And here is the part that will completely change the way you see yourself from this moment forward. Because what was written in the celestial book about you is not a sentence. It is not a prediction of suffering. It is not a destiny of endless struggle. But it is a calling, a purpose, an identity that was sown into you before the world knew your name. And that calling does not disappear when you weaken, does not fade when you make mistakes, is not transferred to someone else when you take too long to answer, because God does not change his mind about you. And what was written about you at the beginning of time remains exactly the same today, intact, preserved, waiting for you to come to it with everything that you are. You were chosen before you chose, were loved before you loved, were planned with a level of detail that goes far beyond what your mind can process, and every scar you carry, every disappointment you lived through, every night you spent awake without finding answers, every time you felt invisible to the world, all of that was seen by eyes that never close, by a presence that never withdraws, by a love that knows no conditions and no expiration date, and that is exactly why you are here right now, receiving this message, because heaven understood that it was the right moment for you to remember what is written about you in that book that no force in the world can destroy. And now I need to ask you a question that perhaps you have never allowed yourself to ask seriously, a question that may seem simple, but that carries an answer that will echo inside you for a long time. And that question is, why you? Why your name? Why was your life chosen to carry such a specific, such a particular, such an impossible to confuse with any other purpose among all the human existences that have ever walked this earth? The answer is not in your performance. It is not in your achievements. It is not in your visible qualities or in the talents the world already recognizes. Because if it were, the criteria would be human, and God does not choose by human criteria. His choice goes beyond everything that eyes can measure, because God sees what is inside, sees what is hidden in the deepest layers of your being, sees what you yourself have not yet discovered about yourself, and it was exactly in those deep layers that He found something He placed in you intentionally, something the world needs, something that can only be offered through your specific journey, with your specific pains, with your specific overcomings, with your story that is unique and irreplaceable. You were chosen because the mission designed for your life requires exactly what you have, requires exactly what you have lived through, requires exactly the marks you carry, because those marks are not flaws that need to be hidden, they are credentials from a journey that few would have the courage to walk. And God knew that when He placed your name in that book, He knew every obstacle that would come, knew every moment of doubt, knew every time you would look in the mirror and not recognize the value that is stamped on your existence. And even knowing all of that, the choice was made. And it was made with joy, with certainty, with a conviction that does not waver. There is something that needs to be made very clear here, which is that your being chosen does not depend on your ability to feel chosen, because human feelings are inconsistent. They rise and fall with circumstances. They respond to the pressures of daily life. They are affected by exhaustion, by loneliness, by disappointment. But the record in the celestial book with your name does not fluctuate with your feelings. It remains fixed, immutable, absolutely certain, and at no point since your name was written there has it ever been placed in doubt. At no point was a second option ever considered. At no point was the book opened so that your name could be removed, because you were chosen, and that choice is eternal. In light of everything that has been revealed here, there is a very natural question that rises in the heart of whoever receives a message like this, a question that may already be forming inside you at this moment, and that question is, if all of this is true, if my name is written in an eternal book, if I was chosen before I existed, if I have a purpose that cannot be erased, then why does my life still feel so heavy at times? Why are there still days when I wake up without strength? Why are there are still situations that seem bigger than my capacity to overcome? And the answer to that question is one of the most liberating truths that exists within the Christian faith. Because the fact that you were chosen does not mean the path would be easy. It means the path would be possible, and there is an enormous difference between those two words that needs to be understood with an open heart, because easy would be a path without depth, without formation, without the kind of growth that only happens when you are compelled to seek a strength that goes beyond your own. And possible means that for every challenge that appears in your journey, there is a corresponding divine provision that was already prepared before the challenge even arrived. There is a sufficient grace that does not abandon you in the middle of the course. There is a hand that does not let go of you even when you cannot feel it. If you desire to go even deeper into this connection with your spirituality, your faith, and the purpose that is written about your life, the digital book Walking with Jesus was created exactly for that journey, with 60 days of prayer, learning, and transformation that will help you walk with more clarity, more purpose, and a spiritual experience that you will feel in every area of your life, and the link to access it is in the first comment below. But remember that this edition is available for a limited time only. What you need to do with the truth you received today is very simple, and at the same time very profound, because simplicity and depth in faith always walk together, and what needs to be done is that you allow this truth to descend from the intellectual level to the level of the heart, that you stop receiving this as beautiful information and begin receiving it as a reality that changes the way you wake up in the morning, the way you face your challenges, the way you speak about yourself, the way you position yourself before situations that try to diminish you, because a chosen child does not need to beg for a place. They already have a place that was reserved with their name before they arrived, and no one has the authority to remove you from that place. And to close this video in the way it deserves to be closed, I need to speak to you about the love that is behind everything that was revealed here, because it would be very easy to receive a message like this and turn it into cold theology, into a beautiful concept that stays in memory without truly touching the heart. And that is not what heaven desires when it sends a message like this. Heaven desires that love be felt, that it break through all the layers of protection you have built over the years, all the walls that pain taught you to raise, all the defense mechanisms you developed so as not to be hurt again, and that it reach the most intimate place in your being, that place you do not show to anyone, that you sometimes do not even visit alone because it hurts too much. It is to that place that the love of God wants to reach today, not with demands, not with conditions, not with a contract full of clauses you need to fulfill before being accepted, but with a tenderness that tells you that you are already accepted exactly as you are right now, in the state you are in today, with the doubts you have, with the mistakes you have made, with the fears you still carry, with the insecurities you hide behind an appearance of strength that is sometimes exhausting to maintain, because the love of God does not need you to be perfect in order to reach you. It only needs you to open the door. This message reached you today for a reason that is far greater than an algorithmic coincidence, far greater than a random click on a screen, because heaven moves resources we cannot even imagine so that the right person receives the right message at the right moment. And if you made it here, if you stayed until this moment of the video, it is because there was something here that your spirit needed to hear. There was a truth that your heart needed to receive. There was a reminder that your soul needed to have repeated clearly and lovingly until it went deep enough to make a real difference in your life. The book that bears your name was written with love and will be read throughout all eternity. With the same love with which it was written, every page of yours was crafted with care by the one who knows you better than you know yourself, by the one who knows exactly what you need even when you do not know how to ask, by the one who has already prepared what is coming in your journey long before you reach the point where you are now, and that love will not end, will not diminish, will not be replaced. Because the love of God has no expiration date and your name in the celestial book has no end date. You are chosen. You are loved. You have a purpose that the world needs, and no voice that tries to tell you otherwise has any authority over what is written in the book that cannot be destroyed. So from today forward, every time you feel the weight of doubt, every time someone or some situation tries to make you feel less than who you are, remember that book. Remember your name written there with an intention that does not waver. Remember that heaven does not make mistakes, and that when God chose you, He knew exactly what He was doing. He knew exactly who you were and who you would still become. If this video touched your heart, if this message reached a place that needed to be reached, share it with someone who also needs to hear that they were chosen, who also needs to know that their name is written in a book that no life circumstance can erase. Because sometimes the message that changes a life arrives through a simple gesture from someone who has already been reached by it, and you can be that channel today for someone who is waiting for this truth without even knowing they were waiting. Thank you for staying until the end. May the love of God continue revealing itself to you in ways that are ever clearer, ever deeper, and ever more transformative in every day that lies ahead.